So the talk out of the White House, particularly Trump, but also Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff, is that the negotiations between Hamas and Israel that the United States is brokering are making great progress, and that there were 4 outstanding areas of disagreement that have been narrowed to 1, and they're on their way to getting a deal anytime soon. Based on the reporting that Jeremy Scales is doing over at Dropsite News and some other reporting that's coming out elsewhere, that appears to be not remotely the case, unfortunately. We can also put up E1. Related to this is a disagreement that is emerging between the Trump administration and Netanyahu about how to move forward when it comes to Iran. I think from Trump's perspective, this 12-day war was the end of this. That he didn't want to do this bombing run. He had consistently said that he's not so stupid as to get sucked into a war against Iran. Netanyahu sucked him into a war against Iran, but he obliterated and pulverized the Iranian nuclear program, and now he wants to get back to the table, put something down on paper, and move on with this. Whereas Netanyahu wants basically a permanent green light to strike Iran at any point in the future if Israeli intelligence suggests that a strike would be advisable at that moment. You could not imagine a starker divide than those two positions. We will bomb them at will whenever we want. We will reach a peace agreement with them. So that's how far apart they are when it comes to Iran. When it comes to Israel, you can put up E3 here. The fundamental divide, and there still are, as I understand it, these 4 major divides, which include humanitarian aid, governance of Gaza, but in particular, the main divide is that Israel is insisting that it be able to create a concentration camp for Palestinians in the south of Gaza on the rubble of Rafah. They call it a humanitarian city. They're saying it out loud. The idea is that Palestinians, something like 600,000 of them at first, would be moved into a makeshift, quote unquote, humanitarian city, vetted ahead of time. So, okay, everybody in. Once in, would not be allowed out until they are basically processed for expulsion, what they call voluntary emigration, or whatever you want to call it. And within this humanitarian city, then Israel would be responsible for both security and keeping people alive, medical care and food. From the Palestinian perspective, this is a concentration camp, and it is
not just Palestinian, by the way. No. There's an op-ed in Haaretz today calling it a concentration
camp. It's from
the Israeli media. Again, isn't it amazing you can say this
from
stuff?
Words?
Yeah.
Like from the description of it. It's what it is. It's utterly horrifying. And so I've seen some people joking that Israel's insistence on concentration camps seems to be a sticking point in the negotiations. It's like, yeah, you think so, but now we still may get a deal. And so that raises very interesting questions. And Saagar and I were talking about this before the show started, which is why. You would think from a Palestinian perspective, if what's on the table for you is first a concentration camp and then expulsion, that is a non-starter. Yet it is not a non-starter. And Hamas is very responded, as I said, positively to the initial agreement, which doesn't really include all of this, but Israel's being very clear publicly that this is what they consider to be what would be the terms of the deal and what they would do no matter what the deal says.
Yeah.
So then the question is, why on earth would Hamas agree to this? And the answer is that they are under absolutely extraordinary pressure from the population that cannot take any more of this, that needs a break, that is just absolutely desperate for a respite from the bombing and for not a decent meal because they don't expect a decent meal, but at least not nothing, like something. Like give us even. And the Palestinians are not naive. They across the board, whether they're 100% supportive of making whatever deal you possibly can or 100% opposed, everybody understands that the chance that after the 60 days of this ceasefire term would be up, the chance of Israel relaunching the war very high.
Yeah.
Well, so the idea is that so they would give up 10 of their 20 living captives.
Yes.
But for a lot of Palestinians, they're like, just do it. We need 60 days.
We need 60 days.
We're dying by the hundreds.
But part of the ceasefire, Ryan, right, is that Hamas basically agrees to its own dismantlement, which is, pretty bitter pill to swallow.
So it's interesting. Every time the paper trades back and forth, Hamas puts into the document that they will cede governing authority to like a Palestinian technocratic committee. And then Israel and the United States take that back out. They actually want Hamas in there because that's
because the Israelis are funneling
it's
money to ISIS and to the other
elements. Hamas's existence allows Netanyahu to say that we don't have a partner.
That's why he gave them money for years,
peace.
Before.
Exactly, and he said that out loud. He's been very explicit about that. Now, what Hamas has said they won't do is disarm their police and security forces. Now, they have said they would turn those forces over to some other Palestinian-run entity. They're okay with that. But they think that fully disarming would lead to very near-term complete slaughter. And so that is a point of disagreement. And also, them disarming is not actually in the terms of the deal. And none of this is on the up and up. So there's a side deal that's been reported in Israeli press that Trump and the Israeli team have worked out. And the side letter says that after 60 days, if Hamas has not met Israel's demand that they disarm and go into exile, then Netanyahu can restart the war, that Israel can restart the war. That's not in the terms of the deal that's being brokered. So think about this as a negotiation, that we're not going to force you to accept it in the deal, but there's this secret side letter that we're going to leak to the press that if you don't do it, then they're going to restart the war. So they might accept it anyway and say, all right, well, in 60 days, they're going to restart the war.
Well, actually, Ryan, what's really interesting is right now, in the headline at Haaretz, over the Israeli news, is, quote, under White House pomp, Netanyahu seeks to resume war and displace Gazans after partial ceasefire. It says directly, citing Israeli sources, Netanyahu refuses to end the war, even as IDF soldiers die in Gaza while he dines at the White House. He is willing to secure a deal to release only half the hostages, alongside plans to expel Gaza residents to the destroyed Rafah area of Gaza entirely. So what they're reporting is basically backs up every word that you're saying, is that he's like, oh, sure, I'll take this half ceasefire deal. We'll take 60 days, and then we'll just go back in, and we'll crowd them all into a humanitarian area built on the ruins of Rafah, which his own press is calling a literal concentration camp.
A city thousands of years old.
Yes.
Completely destroyed.
Right. And, meanwhile, I think, and this is something I talked with Tucker about as well, is the settler violence in the West Bank is insane right now.
Yeah.
It's mask off. It's to the point where even Barry Weiss and folks have to be like, oh, prosecute them. Yeah. Actually, you know what's hilarious, by the way? The defense minister in Israel was like, that's a police matter. This is not a matter. Any violence, he literally said, any settler violence perpetrated by Jews is a matter for the police.
Right.
Any violence perpetrated by the Muslim population or the Christian population is a matter of terrorism.
Explain to me how that's not apartheid. Because I'm constantly told that people are treated the same way. But how could it be if based on your ethnicity or your religion, the same action is treated differently? One by a civil court, another by a military response, if that's not apartheid. Like, what would apartheid look like if that's not it?
Yes, and yeah, well, it's a Bantustan. Let's call these things what they are. Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Broadly, though, do you want to talk about the Venezuela thing for a second?
Yeah, and also just real quickly, so people are up to speed on this. We just put up E4 here. There's also been this really interesting back and forth. The Yemenis started attacking ships that are going to Israeli ports or had been in Israeli ports, which is, by the way, not a violation of the agreement that they made with the United States. They told the United States, we won't attack American ships. So in response, Israel launched attacks on the Ras Isra power plant, on the port of Hodeidah, on another port, and on another smaller power plant that powers basically the milling for flour and bread. So they're going hardcore after Yemeni civilian infrastructure. In response to that, Yemen launched 2 missiles towards Israel. There's conflicting reports about whether or not they broke through, but Israel's air defenses are significantly depleted. We do have some footage, really wild footage that the Houthis put out of their seizing of this ship and sinking, which is important to play because it plays into this. There's this argument like, oh, they just attacked it out of nowhere. They didn't issue any warnings. Doesn't make any. This is a judgment-free zone. We're just reporting what happened here. So let's roll a little bit of E5 here.
Over.
Magic 6, this vessel is engaged in lawful passage and request you do not impede my safe passage. Over.
Motor vessel Magic Seas. This is Yemen Naval Forces calling you on Channel 16. I will repeat for the last time. Captain, you have to decrease the speed of the ship and stop the vessel immediately to check security action. For your ship safety and your crew safety, stop the ship immediately.
So that was the Yemen Navy warning this ship that this was going to happen if they didn't stop. Here they are. So they attacked the ship. They eventually board the ship and set detonations around the side of it and sink it to the bottom of the Red Sea. What's so fascinating is that this is, and apparently there are reports that this just happened to another ship. So now you've got American neocons saying that this is a violation of the agreement that they struck with the United States, and therefore the U.S. should restart its war against Yemen. The Yemenis are saying, no, hey, check out the deal. We were extremely clear in the deal, and you were extremely clear when you reiterated it. We will not attack American ships. And they have been launching missiles, and here they are detonating explosives around the side of this ship, which then sinks to the bottom. They've been very clear. In their statement that announced the deal, they said we're not going to stop attacking Israel, and they haven't stopped attacking Israel. The irony is that Israel now believes, and we can put up E6, they've always believed this, but they've kind of pretended that they haven't, and U.S. national security folks have also pretended. Haaretz reporting that, quote, Israel should, quote, reach an agreement to end the fighting in Gaza, which would put an end to the excuse that started the missile launches from Yemen. This is a report, not from Haaretz's opinion, but this is Haaretz reporting what Israeli war planners believe would be the case. That if you just end the war in Gaza, the Houthis will stop attacking ships and they will stop attacking Israel. So it's an added bonus. Tim Lenderking, who was the envoy to Yemen for many, many years, said the same thing in 2024 when he was asked, like, do you think they'll actually stop? And he's like, yeah, they'll stop. So that's a backdrop for this ongoing fighting that's going on in the Gaza Strip, and also where they continue to threaten Iran, taking serious casualties in the Gaza Strip. And so, but then to your point on this Venezuela situation, Rick Grenell in the early days of the Trump administration got one or several Venezuelan Americans who were held captive in Venezuela and got them out, and since then has been working on prisoner negotiations. Like that's kind of his special envoy role, or it's a key part of his special envoy role. According to this report, Rubio was himself negotiating with the same Venezuelan official, but Grenell and Rubio were not in communication about this. And Grenell was trying to take this America First approach that would say, look, we're not trying to topple your government anymore. And we're okay with Chevron getting back on its feet because we actually need energy ourselves. So let's work together on this. And was working on a deal that involved Venezuelans that were in El Salvador in relation to the Chevron business license and not full-on recognition of the government, but like, okay, we're gonna dial back our efforts to like destroy you. Rubio was working on a separate deal that involved prisoners, but did not have that America First element of allowing Chevron, deepening economic ties, because he has this Miami background where they hate the Venezuelans almost as much as they hate the Cubans, those governments, and so it looks like the Rubio team leaked on the Grenell's team to the Wall Street Journal or whoever, saying that Grenell screwed all this up. It's like Grenell's the one who's been doing this. That's his job. Like, well, it's not your job,
the
Rubio.
point of
Like,
this
what's
is just
going on
to show
here?
everybody the dysfunction, in the White House and in all of our diplomacy, and part of the reason why it's also schizophrenic. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.